Brava Spanish Barrel Tile Installation Video Series, Part 1, Field Tile Layout and Installation. Brava Spanish Barrel Tile must be installed on a minimum 15 32-inch CDX plywood deck, or a code-compliant equivalent, with a minimum slope of 312. It is recommended that Brava Spanish Barrel Tile not be installed when material is below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. For complete substrate preparation, product handling, and other pre-construction considerations, please consult printed documentation at bravaRoofTile.com. Appropriate flashing, ice and water shield, and underlayment must be installed before barrel tile installation. Hip and ridge nailers and optional rake nailers should be installed prior to field tile installation. Ensure compliance with building code, industry best practice, and design specifications. For best results, use the provided job site packing list to easily identify field tiles and accessories. Load the bundles of Spanish tiles and accessories in the correct locations on the roof. Bundles should be selected from multiple pallets to ensure proper color blending. All tiles and accessories should be inspected before and during installation for conformity and fit. The eave starter and ridge closure look similar but are not interchangeable. The eave starter gives the proper cant and closure for the first course of tile at the eave. The ridge closure completes the final course covering fasteners at the ridge or head wall. The top ridge provides a bold look at the ridge, while the narrower hip and rake covers hips and rakes. The optional rake edge is available to cover rake edges. Bullnose may be used to start hips and ridges. Having the products correctly loaded on the roof ensures a smooth installation. Prior to installation, check for roof square and correct any out of square conditions. Eave starters in the first course of tile must be installed to a straight line for correct installation of the field tile. To account for minor deviations at the eave, snap a chalk line at the eave from corner to corner. It is preferred that any eave inconsistencies be corrected before installation. Snap a second chalk line to indicate the head of the first course of field tile 16 inches from the eave line. Beginning at the rightmost eave, place an eave starter flush with the marked line. Install with 2 corrosion-resistant screws into preformed fastener locators. Number 8, number 9, or number 10 screws 2 inches or greater in length are required for best installation experience and highest wind resistance and warranty. Verified building code, warranty, and application requirements. Rest the first tile on the eave starter and fasten using 2 corrosion-resistant screws. Screws for field tiles and accessories must penetrate a minimum of 3/4 inches into the deck or completely through the deck. To position the second eave starter, dry fit a tile on it and position the eave starter so the second tile fits into the rain channel properly. Mark the eave starter location and fasten the second eave starter. Repeat this process installing all eave starters along the eave, dry fitting each subsequent tile, marking eave starter locations and fastening as you go. The 2 ribs underneath the tiles should engage with the vertical closure section of the eave starter. To obtain a properly aligned installation, horizontal and vertical chalk lines must be snapped on the underlayment. With a maximum exposure of 13 inches, snap horizontal chalk lines at the desired exposure. Measure the distance from the third tile to the rake edge. Make vertical chalk lines at this distance to ensure proper vertical alignment. For uniform exposure up the slope, use the swing tape method. Snap a chalk line at the top of the roof 1.5 inches down from the ridge center. With a tape marked every 13 inches, lay the tape from the top of the first course to the line near the ridge. If a mark does not fall exactly on the top line, move the top of the tape left or right until a mark intersects the line. Mark the deck at the marked lines on the tape. Repeat on the other side and snap chalk lines between the marks on the deck. Measure the distance from the third tile to the rake edge. Make vertical chalk lines at this distance to ensure proper vertical alignment. A half-bond pattern can be created by dry fitting 2 tiles so the tile at the rake overhangs halfway. Mark the tile and cut it, creating a half tile, and install the tiles. Always install tiles aligned with chalk lines to maintain straight courses. Do not leave fasteners in any of the exposed surface areas. Repeat to complete the field tile installation. Optional battens may be installed. Snap a chalk line 1.5 inches down from the ridge center and a line 15.5 inches from the Eave reference line. Use mark tape as previously described and fasten battens at each horizontal line. Battens should be no less than a nominal 1 by 2 inch treated lumber or other code approved products. Battens should be no longer than 48 inches and separated with a minimum 1/2 inch gap for drainage. Fasteners must penetrate through tiles and battens and penetrate a minimum of 3/4 inches into the deck or completely through the deck. As a reminder, here are your keys to success. Confirm and correct roof square. Chalk lines for eave starters and field tile. Dry fit eave starters and first course. Install to chalk lines, not for exposure. 2 screws per tile and accessory. Screws with a minimum length of 2 inches. Screw penetration greater than or equal to 3/4 inches into the deck. Maximum exposure of 13 inches. No exposed fasteners. For more videos and information, visit us online at bravarooftile.com.